Welcome back to the Caspa Silver YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to let you guys listen to a pre-recorded X Space that I recently had the privilege of joining. This X Space was entitled Bitcoin There's No Second Best, and the Bitcoin community allowed a couple of us Caspa people join this space and pretty much just try to pitch Caspa to a bunch of Bitcoin maxis. And I think the space went really well for Caspa people. I think we knew more about Bitcoin than some of these people that were trying to defend Bitcoin. And I think there was a lot of useful dialogue that happened in the space. Almost ended up being 4 hours. Now, personally, I got to speak like twice in this space, so I went ahead and clipped those segments, and I'm going to go ahead and let you guys listen to those segments. I may pause the recording to add some commentary or maybe add some more information to back up some claims or just explain myself more or someone else a little bit more. So, hope you guys enjoy listening to this. All right, great. Yeah, so I'm Caspa Silver. I run the Caspa Silver YouTube channel, and I joined Caspa back in 2023. And I also am a big fan of Bitcoin University. A lot of my knowledge comes from him, and my channel is actually inspired off of Bitcoin University. And I'm very young in the space. I started in crypto right when I turned 18. I'm only 23 years old right now. And I learned a ton. I made a lot of mistakes, got wrecked, and then got on the path towards sound money. It led me to Bitcoin. While I was studying Bitcoin, it led me to Caspa, and what Caspa offers to the world and humanity presents things that are just undeniable to me to ignore and sit back and not get on the train for this. So like for me, Caspa is the first ever proof of work to maintain similar security and decentralization of Bitcoin, but can actually scale to meet today's demand in terms of technology. At the end of the day, yes, we do need sound money. We need something that is decentralized, permissionless, and is money. But these things that we're talking about here, Bitcoin, Caspa, are technologies. And history has shown us technology always advances. It does not stagnate and just remain the same. And even if you're looking at, if you read like the Bitcoin standard, it teaches you how money over time has always changed to something that is better over time. Now, personally, I'm not in the camp that Caspa is here to simply just like replace Bitcoin, but I don't think it is right to say Caspa is the next Bitcoin, because if it's the next Bitcoin, then personally, I believe it will fail in what it's trying to achieve, because the whole point of Caspa is that it's meant to be used. One of the flaws that I see in Bitcoin in the longer run is that basically a lot of people, there was like an analogy talking about drinking water or whatever, but to me, it seems with Bitcoiners, a bunch of people are storing a bunch of water bottles, but never actually drinking them. And that's going to be a problem in the future, because proof of work systems by default can only survive if they are used. So yes, the arguments against Caspa that, like where you're going to get your adoption are still true for Bitcoin today. The only difference is that Bitcoin has more time. And I think it's also just something to set the framework here that Caspa has had a 125,000% run against Bitcoin before going into its first actual real bear market. For when I joined Caspa, the bear markets for Caspa were 90 days, and it was consistently a bear market for 90 days, 75% crashes, and then new all-time highs. This is the first correction, and Caspa cannot even correct more than 75%, 80%. Bitcoin had 99% corrections in its early days. And of course, we cannot compare Caspa to 2012 Bitcoin, because it's not the same. And the developers actually knew this. And this is why the emission schedule was created. It's because of the fact that it's not 2012, the emission schedule had to be faster. Because if not, you had to pick your poison. You would either have a slow emission schedule and you have a bunch of people that will get the supply, ASICs will come online with barely of any of the supply out, and then there would just be a bunch of ASIC companies holding all of the Caspa supply. Or you can have a rapid emission schedule, and you allow CPU, GPU mining to take place over time, people will mine those things. And I actually recently just did a video because there was a Litecoiner that was trying to say that Litecoin's superior to Caspa, and I went and broke down how there was actually much more people in the early days of Caspa compared to Bitcoin. Even Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin only had about hundreds of people in the early days. In the first 2 years, about 1,000 people mining. In Caspa, within the first few months, I believe 1 month later, GPU mining became accessible, and there's a huge GPU mining community on YouTube. So you had videos created 1 month after Caspa started with 14,000 views when I was looking back already, and the Discord having at least 4,000 people in the Discord of Caspa. And the Discord of Caspa is basically like the same kind of concept of the Bitcoin forum, where that's where Caspa literally was born, in that Discord. So you can look back and read what everyone was saying when it launched. You can even see the archival history of people doing trading Caspa when there was no exchanges that existed, and people were literally trading millions of Caspa for just hundreds of dollars because no one even knew what the value was going to be. And then at the end of the day, comparing Bitcoin and Caspa in terms of fiat price, I just don't think is a fair comparison, because there's always different periods of time where something is outperforming something else. There's right now certain stocks that are outperforming Bitcoin. Does that mean right now Bitcoin is inferior to those stocks?
Hey,
Obviously,
Caspa
you guys would
Silver,
not.
can
Yeah.
you give us like a 30-second, why do we need Caspa, like your best case to sort of land this?
Yeah, so the reason why we need Caspa is because we actually need a proof of work money that is actually usable for daily day-to-day transactions. I would talk with most Bitcoiners, and most Bitcoiners don't use Bitcoin. And then if they do use Bitcoin, it's a layer two solution, and layer two solutions don't actually support the layer one, because layer two solutions are all done there, and the only thing that supports it is opening and closing channels. So when you have Bitcoin, you're not, it's basically for a newcomer, when they get Bitcoin, they're not done. They need to learn a layer two solution, and the hope and dream is that layer two solutions get adopted and there's enough channels opening and closing so that it can actually sustain Bitcoin. But it just falls again, Caspa and Bitcoin have the same problem, and I would say it's in the same time frame too. In the next decade,
All right,
Bitcoin
hold
is
on.
also going to fall.
Let's get someone. Let's get a Bitcoiner to talk about. Do we have a Bitcoiner in here that wants to talk about layer two to refute what Caspa Silver just said about that not being viable?
Then can we get Christian Ludwig? He said Rob needs to approve him. Let's get the Bitcoin Lightning guy, and then we'll have Mr. Ludwig.
Yeah, we need
we're
people
gonna
to
need
step down.
someone
Somebody's got to
to
step
go
out.
down,
Somebody's
and
got to
then
go
we will
down.
get him up next.
Yeah.
Bitcoiner that wants to refute that. I mean, I can or Michelle can, but I want to get either Salty or Satsdaddy or someone else in to speak
Yeah, I
on
mean,
that if you'd like.
and I'll just throw it out there, and anybody can add to it from a Bitcoin perspective. But we have the Lightning Network, and there are other scaling solutions being worked on. Bitcoin has fully adopted the Lightning Network from my perspective, and so why isn't that the solution in your mind?
Well, because you still need adoption to happen. If okay, so let's say the emission schedule was to completely end right now for Bitcoin, would the current adoption rate be enough?
I'd have to look at that. I mean, I don't just know the answer, but
Well,
I know I
it
use
would
Lightning more than I
it wouldn't be
use.
enough. So yeah, you could see right there at that moment, I asked that question and it almost was just like complete silence. Like they couldn't answer that question right away. And the short answer to that is no. If the emission schedule of Bitcoin was to completely go away today, Bitcoin would not survive, because, if we actually look at the data for this right now, you can see here that in the last 24 hours, Bitcoin has produced $47.48 million in mining revenue. But if we look at how much in fees it's producing, you can see that yesterday, as of recording this video on July 16th, Bitcoin only produced about 4.54 Bitcoin in fees, which is equivalent to about 400, almost $500,000. And so if the emission schedule was to completely stop today, this $47.48 million will literally drop to $500,000. So no, if the emission schedule was to go away, Bitcoin would not survive. So their argument is the layer 2 like Lightning Network has already been adopted and it's working. No, it's not, because it's still not producing enough fees to supplement the block reward, because right now all the miners on Bitcoin are mainly staying because the block reward exists. And this is just the main point about all proof of work systems. They are all going to fail if they do not produce enough fees. And it seems like Bitcoiners are more ignorant to this and just think that the number going up is going to solve this issue, instead of realizing that they need to do something so that the layer 1 can actually be used more. But we live in this world now where Bitcoin is heavily looked at as something that you just hold your money in. You never use it. They say don't sell it, hodl forever. They are now doing ETFs for it. They're now doing treasury companies for it, which means that you're just holding more Bitcoin forever and not using it, which is bad. And the main difference between Bitcoin and Caspa is that you have two systems that are fundamentally sound, but one system has much stronger and better incentives to be used because Caspa can actually scale. And you're going to see in the space that later they're going to try to make an argument against Caspa that even if it did get adopted, that it's going to start struggling with fees. And you're going to hear my response to that a little bit later here.
I mean, we don't know the future.
Emissions went away right now, it would not be enough at the current levels. You do not, the blocks are not filled enough in Bitcoin to actually make it sustainable for miners if the emission schedule was to just completely drop today. So the only difference between Caspa and Bitcoin is that there's time. Bitcoiners have more time before this becomes more serious. And Caspa is trying to approach this at a much faster rate, mainly because of its superior technology being enough incentive for the adoption to come in within the decade, which is pretty much what Caspa does.
So you're relying on 20 or so devs to figure out a problem that Bitcoin has been, also needs to figure out, but has a lot more time and a lot more adoption. You see where we're going, right? Like the risk, right? It's about risk ultimately. Like
I just want to say there that he says that I'm relying on 20 or so devs to figure out a problem, and the thing is, we're not relying on any devs to figure out this problem. This problem simply exists, and Caspa is already the solution because I already said, it has better incentives to be used. We're not waiting for Caspa to be upgraded so that it can be used. It can be used. The only thing that we're waiting for is just more use cases, which I guess in that sense, yeah, we're reliant on developers to come in and build use cases, but we do have that actively happening within Caspa. We have smart contracts coming very, very soon. And we also have, Cassia messaging that just recently launched on Caspa that you can actually send communications over the Caspa network. These are use cases that are great for Caspa, and you have an incentive to use them because Caspa is just simply put internet speed proof of work. And that is something that I think the world today actually would be accustomed to, because the world today is used to everything being at internet speeds. And so why can't our money transfer at internet speeds? Why can't communications transfer at internet speeds while using a very secure, decentralized, and permissionless protocol like Caspa?
Why would a Bitcoiner go 90% away from Bitcoin into Caspa when the risk is that much more? Like that to me makes zero sense.
I mean, a Bitcoiner may not do that, but I mean,
this is the Bitcoin army.
Yeah.
If a Bitcoiner may not do that, but the thing is, there's people that do that were Bitcoiners before, and they are 90% Caspa or whatever. And the fact of that is that people are doing that because they actually do believe Caspa can achieve this. And one of the main things about Caspa is that it's actually going to be able to support smart contracts,
Okay.
which is a huge market.
But
You
they've
guys
done
talk
that with
about
Ripple,
stablecoins.
right? Ripple has done that. Ripple's got plenty of channels, plenty of stuff going through. And look at the
Yeah,
people
Ripple's a number
who
two network.
years ago, Bitcoiners went over there. They are down drastically,
Yeah.
right? So
But Ripple is still a
that
100 billion market cap network today, and Caspa right now we're talking about it being right now a two
2
billion
billion. Yeah.
market cap network. So whether I just want to add there, I don't know why he actually just compared Caspa to XRP. I mean, like, there's a reason why they have never debated XRP, I bet, in their community. They probably have, but as far as I'm aware, they haven't really considered debating any other cryptocurrencies. Instead, they decided to choose Caspa because obviously there's enough merit in Caspa where a Bitcoiner could become interested in it because it has fundamentals that are way superior to like 99% of other cryptocurrencies that exist in the market. So to compare Caspa to XRP is kind of silly. And hey, if you want to compare it to XRP, I mean, like I'm saying in this space, XRP still hit, I think it's about to hit almost 200 billion market cap. So the comparison is kind of funny because if XRP is able to do that, and in our opinion, for a lot of us who are in Caspa, we would believe that XRP is a lot more inferior when compared to Caspa, then I mean, hey, that's just setting the goal even higher for something that Caspa could potentially reach. Not, in the terms of fiat, yeah, it looks bad. Ripple looks bad. It still went up 100 billion market cap network. And you guys talk about the stablecoin market a lot. And what recently, Jack Mallers with the Strike app, which probably a lot of you people use, he just recently integrated Tron Network, which is obviously built on, it's a proof of stake network for proof of stake. And, Jack Mallers got a lot of flack for that. But wouldn't it be way better if stablecoins were actually supported on a proof of work system that was decentralized?
we're
Because
not
Bitcoin
saying it
can't do that.
would or wouldn't be better. We're saying you have a
Well, those are the
countdown.
markets.
Your time.
So it was unfortunate at that part where they kind of just like disregarded one of my arguments as to why Caspa could potentially gain a lot of adoption. And that's the thing, because they try to say that, the hill that it needs to climb is so difficult and that's what makes it so risky. But when we give arguments as to how it can actually be adopted, they kind of just shrug it off. And if you have not heard me discuss this, I have this video here entitled "The Biggest Market Caspa Needs to Tap Into," and this is where I talk about how Caspa can infiltrate the stablecoin market, because the stablecoin market is not going to go away. It makes up for like almost 90% of like all the crypto volume. And Jack Mallers, who has the Strike app and is a huge Bitcoin maxi, adopted the Tron network to operate USDT on his app because, unfortunately, even though he wants everyone to embrace Bitcoin maximalism, a lot of his customers have to on-ramp themselves into crypto by first going through stablecoins. And one of the best networks right now for stablecoins is the Tron network, which is a proof of stake network. The fees are actually horrible on it. It's not decentralized. And we have a Bitcoin maxi literally supporting a proof of stake network so that he can enable customers to use his app and then get into Bitcoin. I don't see why, if Jack Mallers is a open-minded person, a future-minded person, he won't just pull the trigger and switch to Caspa in the future once it has stablecoins. Because, I mean, to me, it would only make sense for a Bitcoiner to do this, because if you really want to prevent people from getting into these other networks that you feel like are so inferior, I think Caspa would be the only one that has strong merit that you would consider and say, you know what, this is actually a network not only that I would rather support and allow my customers to use stablecoins to onboard themselves to get some Bitcoin, I actually may want to allocate some money to Caspa and hold that long term as well, because it serves a different purpose for the market. It's not just store value. It goes beyond just transferring value or storing value. Its goal is to be a network that facilitates the majority of common transactions within the crypto world, because it is very fast, it is decentralized, and it's fully secured. It's backed by proof of work.
Your sand in your hourglass is running out, and you have all of the, you named them, you have all of that competition to try and get to solve the problem, right? You need those transactions, and that's the hurdle's too high.
Hey, can I
Hit him
read
with
a
Christian, bro.
sentence from the founder of Caspa, Jonathan Sampolinsky from Harvard? So this is what his statement about the Lightning Network. It's a statement. It says, "I cannot be breached without a system-wide breach. It will fail me only if it fails everyone. This security condition is what Lightning Network lacks, why it is likely to lose the battle versus other L2s or L1s." So that's just about Lightning. You understand?
And the other issue with Lightning, it has some security and decentralization flaws because it doesn't inherit the layer one's massive decentralization and security. The primary issue is onboarding onto Lightning Network. It would take 80 years for the world to onboard
Exactly.
simply because Bitcoin is not scalable enough for that many users. And the primary issue people overlook with Lightning is the cost of onboarding. It prices half the world out who are in a low socioeconomic status because if people want to use a medium of exchange that's not a stable coin because they don't want censorship to be in the equation, they prefer to use something secure and decentralized like Caspa or Bitcoin. The issue with onboarding to Lightning is the cost of a fee. Now, wealthy people or people, who are in the upper middle class to higher class, they can afford to load $1,000 onto Lightning one time and use that for the entire year. Poor people can't do that. They can't pay a $10 fee to put $20 on Lightning and use it.
Can
So
I
the
can I
issue
ask a
the,
follow up,
the issue
Chris,
is with go ahead.
to what you're saying? What you're saying is somewhat making sense, but why do you think it's going to take 80 years to onboard people to?
Because it's not
I'm confused on that.
Bitcoin
The
doesn't have
math
enough
of
throughput if the entire world
yeah.
wants to onboard to the
But
Lightning
they're not going
channel
to
from the
do it
You,
people
all at
layer one.
once.
I know, but it's
and
still
can they
it's
not get Lightning Bitcoin without being on the native chain, right? I could send someone Lightning, and they don't need to ever be on the main, have it on native.
I think that statement was crazy because he just suggested to onboard people onto Lightning by simply just telling them, hey, here's a Lightning wallet, and then I'm going to send you some Lightning network Bitcoin. And now you have a person that absolutely has zero Bitcoin. You did not onboard them onto Bitcoin because Lightning Network Bitcoin is not Bitcoin. And not only that, you just introduced that person uh, into possible custodial risk and centralization risk, and that person is not even self-sovereign. So it's just like I thought the whole purpose of cryptocurrency was to get away from middlemen and actually have self-sovereignty and be your own bank. But now a solution is just to simply onboard someone into a layer 2 solution that is paper Bitcoin. It's not even real Bitcoin yet. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And this is what I see the future is going when it comes to Bitcoin, and why I think Caspa has a really, really strong potential to gain a lot of attraction in this space because it just simply gives you more self sovereignty. And when we say Caspa is for all, it literally is for all because it's not a huge burden to onboard yourself or self custody it because the fees don't become ridiculous like they sometimes do in Bitcoin.
Then they're not using Bitcoin then.
they're not using Bitcoin, and that promotes even more centralization of
Well,
Lightning
Caspa's
if
not
people
using Bitcoin either, right?
no.
So again, you're talking about adoption, and we're talking about using a layer two, or something like
Yeah,
that.
but
The
that's
layer one
adoption.
needs to
That's
be
adoption of,
used
of,
for it to
of Lightning.
actually
It's not
survive.
adoption of Bitcoin.
Yes, correct.
It's still on the Bitcoin main chain. It's a layer
But
It
it
two of
is.
doesn't
It
support
Bitcoin.
isn't. It
Bitcoin.
isn't on the
It's
main
not
chain
on
at
the
all.
main chain, sir.
It's not on the main chain. Basically you to get to be paid in Lightning. First, you have to have Bitcoin. Then you have to lock it. Then you have to onboard the Lightning network, and for that you need the transaction. Even if you just open one transaction ever, just to onboard once, try to do that for 100 million people or 1 billion people on even if you're using the full throughput of Bitcoin network, it's going to take you at least a dozen years, if not
If
more.
Bitcoin only does 870,000 transactions per day, maxed out.
Yep.
There's no
Yeah,
300 million a day.
Caspa has
Yep.
as many blocks in a day as Bitcoin has had in its entire history.
Yeah, but his blocks are like don't have a lot of.
Look, so I haven't really gotten the
More
chance to
blocks
speak.
incentivize
This
decentralization.
is the way I look at it. I think Bitcoin is the best store of value. I think Bitcoin will always remain the king of capital within crypto, namely because of its first mover advantage, its history, the lack of a public founder. Those are that trifecta right there will never be replicated. So I think it will always be the best store of value. Caspa has the same store of value attributes that Bitcoin has, but it has support for concurrency. It can be a medium of exchange, instant peer-to-peer electronic cash, internet money, and it can also be sort of the real-time trust net of the internet. And a perfect example of that is Cassia app, which is an encrypted text messaging app on Caspa that's live right now. And every single transaction is a message that's sent to another user instantly. So there's all sorts of DLT type applications that Caspa can support because it's basically live real time Nakamoto consensus. So in my mind, I hold a little bit of Bitcoin. It's the ultimate store of value, the ultimate monetary digital gold, and unfortunately, and you're entitled to your opinion that Lightning solves this issue, but I wholeheartedly disagree, especially because it prices half the world out socioeconomically. But Caspa is just simply digital peer-to-peer cash, like Satoshi envisioned. It honors all of Satoshi's
I
Uh,
system.
wanted to
let's move on. We
Yeah,
have talked about that a little bit. You
I
guys
got
did have your chance to speak
I
on
got
that a little
something,
bit.
Rob.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
So I mean, smart contracts, all of this, right? If it, to speak on your point of okay, it's got things that Bitcoin has, it's going to be able to do the peer to peer cash as well as store of value. Problem, right? With your smart contracts and all your transactions you want to do. So you get all this adoption, right? The dollar for dollar is the same. The price goes way up, right? The Caspa market cap through the roof, right? It is now going to be expensive to run all those transactions, right? The reason why you have Ethereum and all these other chains, these experimental chains, is because it's cheap. It's cheap to run it. It's cheap to execute these things. Why in the future would you want it to be expensive? Why would you want it to be expensive to run and transact all these things? You don't. So then that's going to be why you're going to get rid of your token. Why would you
It
get rid
won't
of
be
your token?
expensive though,
It says why not? Why not? If the market
because
cap was
being
through the roof, why would it
didn't
not be
understand the
expensive?
because
connection.
Caspa increases block production, which is actually something I wanted to talk about that hasn't really been addressed here. Is that why does Caspa have faster blocks? Why does that even matter? Number one, it increases the throughput. With Caspa's 10 blocks per second right now, you are able to handle close to about 200 million transactions without the mempool getting clogged. And if we're being honest,
In a
200
day,
million
yeah.
is yeah, in a day. And if we're being honest, 200 million is more than enough for the current level of adoption for crypto in general. No coin right now is handling more than like 2 million a day. I mean, I guess Solana has 66 million from what my research, but again, Caspa can do 200 million, so it got it covered there. Another reason why the block production being fast is extremely important is because it actually increases decentralization of mining. Because in Bitcoin right now, you only have 144 blocks a day. And right now, there's a current concern that pool centralization is a thing. Now, yes, I know miners can always just switch to another pool. Yes, they could, but that is just kind of assuming that would happen. And one of the main things about these systems is we shouldn't just assume the best case scenario should happen. We should actually prepare for the worst case scenario. And in the worst case scenario, let's say they don't move, or let's say pools all demand to KYC. That's going to be a big problem because if you're not allowed to now be on a non-centralized pool, then that could centralize Bitcoin in a sense. I mean, we already have two pools in Bitcoin that almost make up over 51% of the network. And again, I know miners choose those pools, but we can assume that miners will change if those pools become malicious. Now, how does this compare to Caspa? With Caspa, 10 blocks per second, we have 860,000 blocks a day. Just about that. I know it's not exactly accurate, but about 860,000 blocks a day. That reduces the variance of finding blocks. Right now, I am solo mining Caspa in my own home with my own node, and I'm finding about 1 to 2 blocks a day. And on Bitcoin, I could never do that. If I do, it's called lottery mining. For Caspa, it's just another day. And that is one of the biggest differences on why Caspa has more blocks. And it's super important and it allows for more throughput. It actually increases decentralization. And this is one of the compelling reasons why people would even consider mining on Caspa, why even Marathon Digital Mining considered mining Caspa, because it has incentives. There's good incentives for miners. And now Caspa is just going up the hill, the battle. I mean, let's not forget Caspa reached top 20 in market cap at one point. And that's pretty crazy for a network that literally does not have a centralized VC backing or anything like that. It's been doing all this organically. And that's why we're here fighting for this, because we believe we can continue doing this organically. And so that is
Cas-
one of the
Caspa
things I wanted to
Silver. Thank
point out.
you. Thank you, Caspa Silver. Can you remind me your holdings, like percentages, Bitcoin versus Caspa?
Right now, my Caspa holdings is like 95%, and my Bitcoin holdings is 5%.
Okay. Okay. And I'll let other folks speak. I know there's a lot of Bitcoiners that want to talk to. We have at least Sats, Daddy, and Stacy wanting to share. But I just want to say, okay, many of you hold Bitcoin. You know it's proven. It's a store of value. It ain't going nowhere. But you're speculating so highly on something that isn't necessarily proven yet. Why are you doing that?
It's not speculation. It's
Well,
math and code, and it's a real
But it's
Satoshi
not
system.
proven. It's
I,
not
I,
proven.
I have
It
a
proves itself every day. And there's instant
No.
transactions you can go do.
what do you mean by proven though? Because like,
Because it's been
no,
around what, 3 years? It's still young. You admit that.
okay.
it's
Three
been
and a
through a
half.
few attacks. Wait, let me answer this.
There's been a
It's
spam attack on
there,
Caspa and it
there's been
survived.
yeah,
There's been
there's been
hash rate drops on Caspa and it survived. I mean,
Yeah, but it's only doing how many transactions per day? How
it
many wallets?
actually is
It's
doing
right
set
now
up
that.
proof
Caspa
of
has
world. It's set up proof of
75%.
work record for transactions.
Let me take
Caspa has
the
75% of its holdings right now that has not moved in 3+ months. So right now, Caspa is showing more of being a store of value rather than a medium of exchange, because Caspa is still in its early stages. And this is exactly true with Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is not being used any crazy amount either on the layer one. And that's just normal when things are new. But over time, Caspa has better incentives to actually use it. Like, for example, like we've talked about here, Cassia messaging. I message people on the Caspa network all the time. Those are layer one transactions that are supporting miners. I actually pay my barber in Caspa and I don't have to use a layer two. Those are layer one transactions supporting miners. And obviously, this isn't going to happen overnight where adoption comes, but that's why we're here, because we believe it can happen and we're fighting for that.
Okay, Silver.
All right, we're gonna. Okay, go ahead,
Gun to
Michelle.
head right
I,
now.
w- I want to give you
Somebody did
your.
the gun to head earlier, but gun to head right now, Silver. Knowing everything you know, what's your allocation?
My allocate, I already 95%
I know, but
Caspa.
would you keep that if you had a gun to your head right now and you just had to make the decision?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like that's this decision is made. I have a family. I have kids. Like I have a child, a newborn. I have a family. I made this decision, and it's not done kind of like just willy nilly. Like I can't take that much risk as I used to when I was younger and didn't have a home, a wife, and a kid. Now I do, and that's what That's the risk I'm taking.
And you
So
think
you
Obviously,
don't
there's
think
less
that
risk in holding Caspa long term than Bitcoin? Less. I'm not talking about, I'm just saying risk. There's
Michelle,
less
I want to
risk.
give
there's
you
less
my answer to
I would
this.
say there's probably not less risk in a sense, but I mean, everyone has different risk tolerance. For me, I'm much younger. I'm a
Yeah.
much younger person. So for me, my risk tolerance is going to be like, hey, I would go more in Caspa if I was my age. And if anything, for me, I feel like Caspa is for my generation coming up that are, we understand technology. We grew up with phones. We grew up with things being instantaneous. When I click a link, I get it. And I get that website. When I want to send money across the world anywhere, I want it to happen instantly. That's just what realistically people are going to want in the future. And if we just can't assume that people are going to be okay with just 10-minute block times or transactions being confirmed a day later. I just don't think realistically that's actually going to remain true, that people are going to be okay with that. And just ignoring Caspa isn't going to make Caspa go away either. So I
So,
think that's why I do
Silver,
really value this conversation.
Silver
Phil,
mentioned
I'm
something
19.
Hold
interesting.
on, hold on. I gotta click back on something before we go any further here. Whether I like Casper or not, or whether anything, if you have 95, 98% of your portfolio or your allocation in Casper or any other you're gonna get wrecked eventually. And I want to
Well,
make sure
it's not
everybody
about
realizes
yeah.
that, because I mean, if we're looking at a 3, 4 year old technology here, I knew about Bitcoin in 2012 when
Is
it
that
was a few years
professional
old.
financial advice?
I was not getting into Bitcoin that early for 98%
Yeah.
of my
And
allocation.
Caspa Silva,
I
you
mean,
said it yourself. You're
anything that's that new has a massive risk. And that's just, I mean, that's for
and,
anybody.
and
So I
being
want to make
23
sure that
year old,
everybody
20,
Well,
understands
I
that.
just want to
23,
clarify.
being
It's not
23,
it's
you
not
can
my
fall on your
entire net
face and
worth.
get back up, right? At
I just want
23,
I just
you
want to
can
I just want to
fall on your
clarify. It's
face.
not my entire net worth, and another reason why it's 95% is because of the price appreciation. I got in Caspa pretty cheap, and actually when I got in Caspa, I got wrecked originally because I bought at an all-time high, but I hauled it all the way through because I actually took time to research and deep dive and start a channel, start educating people, and I'm in the positive now. Like I'm good. But
In a bull
that
market, everything
there's
goes
always
up.
risk. There's always time frames where it's going to be bad. Anyone who bought Bitcoin at 65K got wrecked when it went to 15K. I was one of them, but I'm still here because I actually spent the time to understand and research, which everyone should do before you get into Caspa. I'm not here
And
to
that's
say
what we're
just
doing
get
now.
into it
And
Yeah.
and
we're
throw
talking, we're
Sure.
researching.
and I think that's good. I'm just gonna end it there. I mean, it's funny because like we had the argument of, oh, Caspa's just gonna if let's say, they gave us the benefit of the doubt. They said, let's say Caspa does rise up in high market cap. Eventually it's just gonna be high in fees. And I completely debunked that claim because it's just not true that it will just be super high in fees because they didn't realize that Caspa can do 200 million transactions in a day in a very secure, decentralized manner. And then after I explain all that, explain why 10 blocks per second is actually very important, it turns completely into this emotional game of like, oh, it's risky. Like I felt like I was talking with a bunch of like retirees that were like worried because like they're retired and they need to make sure that their money grows. Like, oh, it's risky this and everyone has different risk tolerances. Everyone's in different financial situations. You should do what's best for your risk tolerance. What I'm doing is not going to be best for you, but at least take time to research and whatever. And they say that, oh yeah, we are researching. That's what we're doing here. The dude just got done telling everyone that if you're 95% in Caspa, you're gonna get wrecked. I mean, you're just making bold claims like that, and I hope it's not financial advice that you're saying something like that because these people don't know. No one really knows the future. In fact, in the space, it was said many times when we were critiquing Bitcoin, they would just say, "Oh yeah, we don't know the future," but then they come and like give absolutes that Caspa is gonna fail. It's just like they have a double standard, and then it just turned into this like, "Oh, if I had a gun to my head, would I keep my position?" Like, what? I mean, I don't know. It just became super emotional. And I really think that's just a testament to that there's really no factual claims against Caspa. When you really get down to it, when you spend time, do your research, do your deep dive, there's no really factual claims against Caspa. And all the debates are going to simply turn into adoption debates. Well, how are we going to know if it's going to go up? I mean, you just can't know those things. And if you have an investor mindset, you don't invest in things because you know for sure they're going to happen. You invest in things because you look at data, you look at different fundamentals, and you say, hey, look, based on all of these things, I believe it's going to happen. And that's what we're doing here with Caspa. That's what I'm doing, at least here with Caspa. I have tons of videos explaining why I believe Caspa does have some kind of future. But I think this space was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this and allowing me to commentate on this space. And I think before I end this video, I should put this clip of Michael Saylor back in the day, because I think it fits perfectly with what I believe the time that we are in within Caspa.
Who wants to wait 42 seconds to watch something download instead of 2 seconds? Nobody, right? Who wants to wait?
So yeah, that's my final thoughts on this. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here. If you guys do appreciate my work here, please consider joining my Patreon and supporting my channel here. I'll greatly appreciate that. And as always, don't be average, be different.